It's so fast. It's such a powerfully quick process.
The results were just short of phenomenal.
I kept getting feedback from my clients saying that it worked on them over and over again.
EFT releases people from the chains that keep them bound to a mediocre life.
EFT should be tried for everything. It's an amazing resource tool, and it should be in everyone's first aid kit.
I think we've got to take a look at who we are and what we've got and how we function, and then begin to apply this information in a practical manner.
Here with my friend Wayne Dyer for the Tapping World Summit, the 6th annual Tapping World Summit. And instead of a long introduction, we've just been talking about some pain. Wayne, thank you, my friend. Thank you.
Yeah.
And we're going to do some tapping. We're going to get right into it. And there's people watching this video who have never seen tapping before. So
really?
Say, what
I'm
are these kooks doing here?
I'm a big fan. I'm really a big believer. And I must say, and I asked, because I had to be, we were together down in Melbourne, Australia, and I was giving a talk, and you were to follow me.
Yeah.
And the pain was so excruciating in my neck and in my back that I, for the first time in 40 years, I had to be taken off the stage. And you went right out there and did a whole tapping thing with a couple of thousand people.
Yeah.
And you basically tapped for me for the whole room. And 30 minutes later or an hour later, you did about an hour.
Yeah.
I was back out on stage. I wasn't able to stand, but I was able to sit and go through it. And then for the two weeks or so we were together in Australia, we did tapping every single day.
Yeah.
So
yeah, there's so much I want to talk to you about, and you've been a mentor of mine for the last, it's got to be 15 years now. You know, it used to just be on my iPod. I couldn't get you in person,
right.
So it was just putting the iPod in and listening. And something that I've seen in your talks and your body of work is the theme of forgiveness throughout it. You know, really present theme.
Right.
And when we do the tapping, you know, a big concept of it is in letting go of these things. You know, and it's I deeply and completely love and accept myself. And sometimes one of the things that we'll tap on is forgiveness. You know,
right.
to let go of something that's affected us in the past. So talk to me about forgiveness. What has it meant in your life, and how has that concept played such a big part of your life?
Mark Twain said that forgiveness is the fragrance that the violet sheds on the heel that has crushed it. It's being able to send love. It's being able to have love in your heart. I must say, Nick, that forgiveness is probably the single, if you had to put one word on why my life shifted when I was back in my 30s to a new direction. It was because of forgiveness. My father, a man I never met, but he walked out on our family. My mother had 3 boys under the age of 4. There was a depression. I was born in 1940. My brothers were born in 1936, December, and in 1938, in October, and myself in May of 1940. So 3.5 years, she had 3 children, and this man just left. He spent some time in prison. He was an alcoholic. He was abusive. He was a womanizer. When my mother brought me home from the hospital in 1940, my father had moved in with another woman in Ann Arbor. We lived in Detroit, about 40 miles away, and left my oldest brother, who was just 4, in charge of my other brother, David, who was 16 months. And my mother came home to that. I heard those stories my whole life, and I just grew up with deep anger and resentment and hatred towards someone who could treat a woman that way. Consequently, I was put into a series of foster homes and an orphanage until I was 10, and my mother got us all back together again. And all I ever did was, I would have dreams all the time about this man. And for the first 10 years of my life, I didn't even know what the word father meant, because I lived in a place where nobody had fathers, in an orphanage. And when I found out and then heard what he had done and how he had stolen from people, and it was just everything about this man I had ever heard was just evil. And I ended up, I haven't got time to tell the whole story, but I ended up at his grave in 1974. 10 years after he had died, I found out, and I went down to his grave. And I actually went down there to sort of do something else on his grave. And I had no idea why I was being sent to go down there. I rented a car. I went to a lot of trouble to get down there, and I stood on his gravesite in Biloxi, Mississippi, August the 30th, 1974. And the first 2 hours that I was there, all I did was curse him and ask, how could you possibly behave this way towards such a wonderful woman and have 3 boys and never make a phone call, never even check on us, you know? And I mean, I get tearful now even thinking about it. And so I went back to the car to drive back to New Orleans and go back. I was teaching up in New York at a university there at St. John's University. And something called me back and said, go back to the grave. And I got out of the car, went back to the gravesite, and the words came out of my mouth. I said, from this moment on, I send you love. I forgive you. I let go of all of it. I said, who am I? Who am I to judge you for what you did? You did what you knew how to do, given the conditions of your life. And I send you love. Now, at that time, I was 34 years old. I was overweight. I was drinking. My writing was going nowhere. I mean, I'd written some textbooks, but it was just the kind of writing that I really wanted to do. I was in a relationship that wasn't working at all. I was basically on a involuntary suicide mission, the way I was living my life. You know, I wouldn't have lived another 10 years probably. So anyway, my life was pretty much out of control. I was a writer, but I wasn't writing the way I wanted to write. In my relationships, I wasn't very happy. I was overweight, out of shape, and so on. I left New Orleans, flew back to New York, and drove, and then got on an airplane and flew down to Fort Lauderdale, and rented an apartment at the Spindrift Motel on A1A in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, in 1974, in September. And in 14 days, that's how long I had there, I wrote a book from cover to cover called Your Erroneous Zones, which became the #1 selling book of the entire decade of the 70s, and today has probably 100 million copies in print all over the world in something like 47 languages. Everything in my life changed. When I got rid of the hatred, the anger, the bitterness, the rage. I used to wake up every night almost by being sweating and angry, and I'd be seeing my father in a bar someplace and going up to him and grabbing him and saying, how could you do that? The reason I went to my father's grave is I just wanted to see the death certificate. I wanted to see if it was acknowledged that he had 3 children. And it was. My name was on there. And he had died of cirrhosis of the liver at the age of 49. And, you know, even as we sit here now, I can feel his presence around me. I did a film about him called My Greatest Teacher. Yeah. He was my greatest teacher because if I hadn't been able to get that rage, that hatred, that anger out of me, my life would have continued on that path. Everything shifted in my life. I started running. I got into, a real good exercise routine. I gave up drinking. I got into a beautiful relationship. My writing took off. Erroneous Zones became, the next one was Pulling Your Own Strings, and today it's 41 books later, and I can attribute all of that to forgiveness, so that if you've got something in your heart that's anything other than love, you got to get it out. And I think, that's a big part of what tapping is helping people to get that out. It is.
I've heard you tell that story probably 100 times now, and it doesn't stop touching me, because every
me
time
either.
we hear it,
Yeah.
it just reminds us, who do I need to forgive? What do I need to let go? There's a couple things you shared that just sort of struck me as they relate to tapping. Right? One is, when we start tapping, we tap on what is called the negative, or I like to call the truth, right? How we feel. So if someone came to me and they were angry, we would say, even though I have all this anger, I have this rage towards my father, and I'm so pissed off at him. Sometimes we even curse and just really feel that emotion to experience it in the body, and then do the tapping to let it go. you did a very similar thing at the gravesite, right? Where you had to have those 2 hours of expressing that rage.
Oh, yeah, you can't imagine the rage that I went through there. I mean, it was...
Unfortunately, there's no video footage of that. Right?
Well, no, I went there to piss on his grave. Yeah. I was so filled with anger, and I felt that was what was drawing me to him. And my other 2 brothers didn't care. It's interesting. They had no interest whatsoever. My oldest brother remembered him, and just would say he was just an asshole. I mean, just let it go. And when my mother got us all back together when I was 10, I couldn't even bring his name up. She was just so filled with rage. And she just passed away about a year ago. She was 96, and I just wonder if she's reconnected. I mean, and I will reconnect with my father because I feel his presence around me all the time. I really feel that he truly was the greatest teacher I ever had. And I think all of that rage is something that I had to express. And now I have nothing but love for him. And it's like there's 2 sides to every story. And who knows what his childhood was like. And what, you know, when he was, I know that he was abandoned when he was a kid. I know that he was abused. I know, you know, and that was his way of reacting to it. And
and that's the people who walk around us are the same. I like to look at people and say, I've had so much experience working with people, and walking in someone that has this issue, and all of a sudden you uncover all these traumas that you just never know. When you see them walking down the street, oh my gosh, the things that they went through, and you see enough of that, as I know you've seen. You walk around and go, well, you know, that person that was rude on the plane, or that was angry here, angry there, they're just working out their own traumas, that same demons that, you know, we're all working through.
It just depends on what you decide to have in your heart. And that's what I've learned, and that's where I am at this stage in my life, is if we can fill ourselves with love and appreciation for, and be in a state of gratitude. So it's really, Nick, it really boils down to what do you have inside? You know, that every event of your life you have an opportunity to be in a state of gratitude for. Now, you would think that, you know, a 10-year-old boy who's filled with rage and everything, but as I step back, and I've just written a whole book about this called I Can See Clearly Now, looking back, I can see that when we are in these places where we think things shouldn't be going the way they are, or we think that it's unfortunate, or somehow we're being punished, or it's just not fair, and all of those kind of things, that's the time to be in a state of gratitude. That's the time to just say, there's something in this for me, you know, that like everything doesn't just have to smell good and be right in order to be thankful for it. You can be thankful for those, you know, all of those experiences. And so many of the experiences that I've had in my life, while I was going through them, I was unhappy about them. I could step back and look at them from the perspective of today, and I couldn't have got to where, I could never have got, I wouldn't be doing this interview if I hadn't had that experience with my father. And who's to say, seriously, in a universe that has no beginning and no end, that's infinite, so we have an infinite number of times to go through this life experience, who's to say that my father's whole life purpose wasn't to come in, behave the way that he did in order to teach his youngest son how to forgive, and that he could teach millions of other people to do the same. Who knows how the whole universe works? Who am I to be judging any of that?
There's a sign-up sheet for a drunk asshole.
That's right, right.
He said, yeah, no, I can do the job.
Right, exactly.
It's going to be hard. You're going to be a real jerk.
Yeah,
you know?
right.
Yeah.
So
I would love to do some tapping on forgiveness.
Okay.
And, you know, last year for the Tapping World Summit, we sat down with Louise Hay, who you know very well, and people were very moved. You know, she brought in a certain energy when she tapped on stuff. So I would love to do, and I'll lead through a tapping if you be my echo, to help people out there forgive.
Right.
So
if
you're watching, so let's do this. You know, it doesn't have to always be a grand thing, right? And we don't expect to forgive, you know, our fathers for decades of abuse in one round of tapping, right? Sometimes it happens, but let's just pick a minor thing to forgive, right? Somebody who annoyed you a week ago, or something that you're just holding on to your heart where you just want to let go of a little bit, right? So everyone out there watching, just pick something that you want to let go of. Pick something that happened recently, pick someone you have anger towards, pick something you go, you know what, I want to experience a little forgiveness in my heart. And really feel that. You know, I think one of the great things about tapping is really going to that feeling, you know, feeling the anger and going, where is it? Where do I have it in my body? What is it that I'm holding on to? And we'll do tapping together. Okay? So tapping the side of the hand. Even though I have all this anger in my heart.
Even though I have all this anger in my heart.
I deeply and completely love and accept myself.
I deeply and completely love and accept myself.
Even though it's so hard to forgive this person.
Even though it's so hard to forgive this person.
I choose to let go now.
I choose to let go now.
Even though I've been holding on to so much anger.
even though I've been holding on to so much anger,
I choose to release it now.
I choose to release it now.
Eyebrow, this anger.
This anger
Side of the eye, towards this person.
towards this person,
Under the eye, or this thing that happened.
or this thing that happened.
Under the nose. It's so hard to let it go.
It's so hard to let it go
Under the mouth, because I feel that I was right.
because I feel that I was right.
Collarbone, and I don't want to forgive them.
And I don't want to forgive them
Under the arm, because I don't want to condone this behavior.
because I don't want to condone this behavior.
Top of the head, but it's time to release this anger.
But it's time to release this anger.
Eyebrow, it's time to let go.
It's time to let go.
Side of the eye, even just a little bit.
Even just a little bit.
Under the eye, releasing this anger.
Releasing this anger.
Under the nose, releasing this pain.
Releasing this pain
Under the mouth, from every cell in my body.
from every cell in my body.
Collarbone, letting go.
Letting go.
Under the arm, letting it all go.
Letting it all go.
Top of the head, right now.
Right now.
Deep breath. So it's in those little moments where we let go,
Right.
where we forgive.
Yeah, even just that little bit I was thinking about someone else who, who has done some things that, I have felt upset about. And I was thinking about that as we were doing the tapping, and I felt more peaceful about it.
You mean you still get upset at people? I thought.
Absolutely.
I thought you'd reached enlightenment. Oh boy.
I have. Enlightenment is part of it.
Enlightenment is part of it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
right, yeah.
Absolutely. I want to talk about the physical body, and I think one of the big breakthroughs in tapping is that we're not just having these experiences in our head, right? We're thinking about them, but we're also activating this somatic body response, right? We're calming the amygdala. We're having that relaxation response from doing the tapping while focusing on our challenge. And I know in your life, you mentioned before, your physical body has been a big part of it, from where you turned it around at 34 and started exercise. So tell me, I know you ran 8 miles a day for, how long was it?
Well, I ran 8 miles a day for 22 years
Wow.
without missing one day.
Can I just have you tell the story of the plane, because that just cracks me up to no end. Talk about devotion and dedication.
Some people call it obsessive. I just say, look, you brush your teeth, that's what I used to say. You brush your teeth every day, and you don't call that obsessive. You go to the bathroom every day. You don't say you're obsessively going to the bathroom. So one of the things I did every day was run. And I ran 8 miles when I started, and I stayed with it for 22 years until my wife said to me, she said, I don't think you could miss a day. She said, I would be much more impressed with you if you could not run one day. So I said, okay, I won't run today. That was it. And I didn't run that day, and she was in shock. And then I ran 7 more years without missing it until I was 29 years. So I ran every day 8 miles for 29 years.
Wow.
Probably longer than you've been alive. Almost.
Almost.
And then, but I was on my way. I was flying down to Australia, and there's an international date line.
Yeah.
So like you have the same day twice, and then you miss a day.
Yeah.
And on the way down there, you miss a day.
Yeah.
So it's like it's Tuesday, then it's Thursday.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh my God, I've missed a day. And I was just so I got up out of my seat. And first of all, I ran up and down the aisle 2 times until the flight attendant said, "You can't do
This isn't gonna fly."
It was on Qantas Airlines.
Yeah.
So I went into the bathroom, and I ran in place for a full hour. So it was about 8 miles because I knew what my pace was. And I came out of the bathroom on an airplane, sweat pouring down my face, and everybody in line looking like, "What were you doing in that bathroom?" So I did my 8 miles. So that's how neurotic I was at the time. Yeah. So.
And then tell me, I know you've done a lot with yoga. How important do you think the physical body is to the spiritual experience?
Well, if you don't take care of it, you don't have any place else to live. So it's like it's just such a gift, and it's so perfect, and just based on what I've been going through just recently in my own life, a simple thing like a realignment where one hip is off, so you're walking. We're not even realizing it. You're walking through life like this, and what an impact it can have on you. And when you're in chronic pain, when you're in like the kind of pain that I was in that pulled me off the stage. You begin to realize, the significance of taking care of this perfect creation. It's just such a miracle, this body of ours. I mean, when you just think about it, what it's capable of doing, and so on. It's like, and what a miraculous. One of my most favorite people in the world is a little boy named Jesse. He's 2 years old. And, you know, I have really, I'm 73 years old. I have 8 children of my own. I love every one of my children deeply. But I've never known a love like I have for this little boy. There's something, maybe it's just in my age or whatever it is, but just watching him, you know, learning to be alive, and the excitement, and you know, it's like the poet Wordsworth said that heaven lies about us in our infancy. I always talk to him. Tell me what God is like. Come on, I know you know. You were just there. I'm going to be there soon, but I want to know more. You know, just the joy of being around this little 2-year-old. I mean, it's just thrilling to me. You know, watching him. I'm teaching him how to swim, and just all the little things that he does. You know, it's just. I don't think it's really, you know, Nick, it's all about having love in our hearts for everything. I mean, I look at these beautiful flowers that are right here in this room, and I think,
and they smell good too.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, in the movie Oh God, remember with George Burns?
Yeah, George Burns, absolutely.
There's a line in there. He says something about, you know, make a flower, you know, from scratch. Yeah. He said, now you understand, you know, what God is really like. You know, try to make one of those beautiful flowers there from scratch. Just go out and just make one. Impossible, you know.
So, you know, the basic tapping, what we start with is, even though we fill in the blank on the problem, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. And I think that concept of self-love is so primal to healing. Like, you know, we tend to we want to push away, we want to reject the parts of ourselves that are in pain, that are angry. So tell me about self-acceptance. What does it mean to you? Why do you think that's so important?
Well, you know, it's like if you don't accept yourself, nothing else, no one else is either. You know, it's like, you know, I think of it as like we're all creations of God. We all come from the same place. You know, T.S. Eliot said that, you know, we shall not cease from exploration, but at the end of all of our exploring will be to return to the place from which we originated and to know it for the first time. And he was speaking about death, and I don't take that as an explanation of death. I take that as an explanation of an understanding that we all emerged from this place, the same place, that we're all connected. Everything in this universe is connected. Larry Dossey has just written a beautiful book called One Mind, and I've just finished reading it, and it's like showing scientifically how everything is connected to everything in this universe, and you can't take anything and not see the connection to it, especially at the quantum level. So that who you are is a creation of God. You know, in my book Wishes Fulfilled, I talk about, it's like one of the things you have to recognize is that your highest self is God. You must be like what you came from. So a little tiny spark of who you are is the Tao, is God, is divine mind, is Krishna, is consciousness, is Buddha, whatever you want to call it. And the Tao, the opening line of the Tao says, the Tao that can be named is not the Tao. We can't find a name for it. It's just like, but it's the best name we can come for it is something called love. It's just love. It's divine love. And so this is what you came from. So if you don't accept yourself, you're not accepting something that you know is the creation of God. You know, because truly, I mean, it's like the greatest wisdom that you can have is the recognition that you are a piece of this divinity. And I walk around with just Rumi said, you know, sell your cleverness and purchase bewilderment. I'm just in a state of bewilderment about it all. And when you accept yourself, you love yourself. And when you love yourself, that's what you have to give away. And the only thing that you can give away, and that's what a saint is, someone who can only give love away, because that's all they have inside. That's been my goal in my life, is to have no enemies, to have nothing, and particularly not to make an enemy of myself. To love everything about myself. And while I was going through the last 6 months of this pain, the stuff we tapped on down in Australia and so on, most of the time, and you heard me say it many times, say there's a lesson in this for me. And I just did a public television special, another public television special. And when I got an hour and a half before the show to start, I got one of these attacks again in the neck, and I was just like, you know, how am I going to get through this thing and so on. And I said a prayer. My wife was there, 2 of my girls were there, we were in the room, I had my arms around them, and I said, if I'm supposed to endure this pain, you know, for whatever reason that I don't even understand yet, I'm willing to do it. But could I please just have the next couple of hours so that I could at least get through this experience? And it just dissolved. And I was able, you were there, you were in the audience, and I was able to go out there and do it, and then the pain returned the next day, and I went right back to that state, and I still do it now, and I can feel it even now as we're talking about it a little bit here. And instead of cursing it, instead of being angry at it, I accept it as my dharma. This is, you know, and whatever it is that I have to learn from it, generally speaking, every difficulty I've had in my life, getting divorced, literally being someone who is addicted to substances, including alcohol, letting go of, you know, those kinds of beliefs that those are terrible things that I should be ashamed of. They've been amongst my greatest teachers. And this pain is just another one of those things. And generally speaking, I now can go out and help people who live in chronic pain. Yeah. And you do a lot of this with your tapping. You know, I've seen you do it on stage, you know, with people. In fact, when we were out in Australia, that one woman, what was it? She couldn't even...
Well, there's one lady with a frozen shoulder who couldn't move her arm.
Who hadn't been able to move her arm in years.
In 20 minutes, she got it up like that.
Yeah.
You know?
So it's like... And that comes from just accepting yourself and actually instead of cursing the pain, because when you curse the pain and get angry at it, you get angry. Every cell of your being goes through that same anger. And what you want to do is just get to that peaceful place within yourself where you say, you know, when you trust in yourself, you're really trusting in the wisdom that created you, you know. And the wisdom that created you is infinite and it's formless. And so your thoughts are in that same category. Have thoughts that are aligned with that divine presence. Yeah, you'll see it going away.
Yeah. I just spent just a couple of weeks ago 3 days in Stamford, Connecticut. We're filming this in New York City right now, doing 3 days on pain relief, and just incredible results. You know, going really deep. People who had fibromyalgia and arthritis. A Native American with arthritis for years, just pain-free. You see him stretching and doing. He's a Marine. He was a Native American elder, and he's a Marine. Just incredible guy, and he's pain-free. All this. So it was a weekend of miracles. And then towards the end, you know, I'd probably say that 80 to 90% of the people got really, really impressive results. And 10 to 20, we actually did research. We'll look at the numbers later. We're struggling, and at the end, you know, the weekend's wrapping up, and these people who are surrounded by other people who have gotten amazing results, and now they're even more frustrated and angry than they started. And some people said, well, what's going on here? And, you know, my answer was, look, A, you made it here. The fact that you decided to spend 3 days working on this shows that you are well on your way to healing. And I said, and if this isn't the thing that's going to heal you, then the next thing will, or the next thing will, or the next thing will. 10 times deep, however it is, you know.
And you know, also, Nick, you'll never know how it's going to show up.
Absolutely.
You don't know how it's going to show up. The example that I give is that I had this experience with John of God that's well documented and people know about with leukemia. It's another one of those great blessings that came into my life. I've helped so many people, you know, who with leukemia, just because they said, well, if Wayne Dyer can get it and not have it impact his life, then certainly I can as well. And you think, well, maybe I need to tap, and the tapping is going to be the thing that's going to. But it might be something else. You know, the tapping might just open you up to the receiving. And you know, it's like years ago. I've done 10 public television specials. Millions and millions of people have watched them. One woman who happened to watch the one of my shows, her name is Troy Igascu. And she's now 50 years old. Had 3 kinds of cancer. Brain cancer, lung cancer, breast cancer. She watched a show that I did and decided to change her attitude, just decided that she was not going to, and that she wasn't going to live in fear anymore. She was going to send that away. And she tried a new method. It's called the Brzezinski method, where she went on raw foods and things like this. And basically was sent there because of, now this was 7 years ago, okay? So then I'm in this deep pain that I just talked about before the public television special. The next day, whatever miraculous thing was going on in the universe, Pete Igascu, who has all of these clinics on pain relief and so on, all over the world, living without chronic pain and so on, I called him on the phone because somebody gave me his number and they insisted, and I kept saying, I don't want anybody else to touch me, and they said, please, you've just got to do that. So I did, and I called the number, and Pete Igascu answers the phone and finds out where I am. 10 minutes later, he's in my hotel room. 10 miles, he was an hour later, he was in my hotel room. And he said to me, he was sobbing when he walked in. He said, my wife had said to me yesterday that if there's one person that I would like to meet who was responsible for me overcoming this cancer, it's Wayne Dyerom. And then I called him that day, and he just took me on as one of his. I'm doing these exercises and so on, and it's dissipating, and it's like, now how does the universe work? Yeah. How does it work? It's like if you're open to the possibilities of all of these things coming to you, God can send you. He can do it through tapping. Yeah. He can do it through a message, that is being sent that just seems like such a coincidence and it doesn't seem like it's possible. There's no coincidences in this universe. It's all being handled by a divine intelligence. That's a part that each and every one of us are a part of, and there's so many ways for it to come to you, but you got to be open to it. And the 20% of people that you were talking about at the end probably had a closed mind about it, and wouldn't allow themselves to experience it.
Yeah, and one even admitted it at the end. The other thing from a couple of them I heard several days later, now I'm getting the results. Yeah. Now I'm back and things are happening. Right. They're shifting in a huge way that I didn't realize.
Because there's no time. That's another one of the great illusions that we live under, is that time is something that's measured by what's on our watch. And it's not. That's what we call chronos time, chronological time, cause and effect time. But there's also something called eternal time. And eternal time is where you recognize that all of this is taken care of. My teacher, I was going to become a Jungian analyst, Carl Jung said, at the same moment that you're a protagonist in your own life and you're making choices, at that very same moment, he said, you're also an extra in a much larger drama. But within that eternal time, there are choices that you can make. And when you do, you start aligning yourself with this divine intelligence that takes care of everything. Every breath that you take, every hair that grows on your body, everything that takes place in your life is taken care of by an invisible intelligence. They call it the Tao. Lao Tzu said that, he said, the Tao does nothing, but it leaves nothing undone. And all of you are not doing anything. You're just being done. So let yourself be done in accordance with a divine plan, and rather than the one that you have inside of you, your little ego tells you ought to be the way it is.
Yeah. Right. You mentioned a few minutes ago giving it all away. And since the first Tapping World Summit that we did, this is the 6th one now. I can't believe how it's gone. We've made it an effort every year to donate a lot of money. Right. It's literally been hundreds of thousands of dollars at this point. It doesn't compare with your $200 million at PBS, but we do our best here. Right.
250.
250. I'm sorry. Not that we're counting.
You just cut out $50 million. That we've raised, by the way.
And we've been able to support children with cancer in Mexico and doing tapping with them, genocide survivors in Rwanda, veterans with PTSD. And the latest thing the last year has been the Tapping Solution Foundation that we started working in Newtown, Connecticut, which is my hometown, working with that tragedy and the trauma and the pain and
the horror
of that. And I know that through that you've gotten to meet Scarlett
Lewis, right?
And so just talk to me. What does it mean to you to give away? Why is this? It's important to me. Why is it important to you to give back?
Think about it, Nick. Seriously, you come into this world with nothing, okay, and with no thing, nothing. You just one moment you go from formless to form, from nowhere to now here. Okay, it's all spelled the same. It's just a little question of spacing, and then you live your life, and then you leave with nothing. Nothing. There's not one thing that you can hang on to and let go. So basically, the only thing you can do with your life, because you don't get to own anything. You think that you own things, but it's all being taken away. It's all going. There's not. They say the last suit you wear doesn't need any pockets. You're not taking anything with you. Okay. So if that's the case, then the only thing that you can do with your life, since you don't get to own anything, you don't get to have anything. The only thing you can do with your life is give it away. Now ask yourself, what do you think God is like? Living like God lives. Whatever this source that allows everything. Even if you're an atheist, you know that there's some invisible intelligence that is bringing things from non-form to form. And I think it was in one of Rumi's poems. He said that the divine intelligence that is constantly seducing the formless into form is the only thing that owns my heart. So there's something that is seducing the non-form into form. It seduced you from non-form. There was a moment when you didn't exist, and now you do exist. And what is that world like? So what is God like? What is this source like? What is the Tao like? What is whatever you want to call it? What is it like? All it does is give things away. It doesn't ask for anything back. It's basically our original nature. Lao Tzu called it our original nature, is to give away. So when you get into the idea that I own things, that this is mine, and that nobody, you're going against your divine nature. So our true nature is about giving. And for me, it's like whatever amount of money I make and everything, it doesn't make any difference. It's like I just give it all away. It's all, and even when I write a book, or even when I'm doing this interview with it's like there's nothing for me. I'm not getting anything for this. It's just an opportunity to reach out.
I may buy you dinner. We'll see.
Maybe, right? But that would be a first. Okay. No, I'm kidding. So it's like it's your nature. It's your nature to give. I think that's really the great lesson of it all. It's just whatever it is that you have, just give it away. It's summarized by a great poet, Hafiz, who was a Persian poet back in the 13th century. He said, even after all this time, the sun never says to the earth, you owe me. Just think what a love like that can do. It lights up the whole world. It lights up the whole world. A love that is like the sun saying to the earth. And none of us could take a breath if it wasn't for that sun. And it doesn't ask anything back. God gives us all the air that we need, and the water that we need to drink, and the food that we need, all the opportunity to do that, and doesn't say, I want this back, I insist on this. The churches do, the religions do, but God doesn't. God asks nothing back. Be God-like. That's what God realization is really about. That's my ambition, is to be living a God-realized life, to act as if I were a God, because I believe the highest place within each and every one of us is God, that we're all God.
Beautiful. So to wrap up, a lot of the people watching this are about to embark on this 10-day adventure, this 10-day Tapping World Summit. It's a free event. They get to listen for free, and over the 10-day period, nothing but content, tons and tons of content of life-transforming information. What words do you have for them? Why should they spend the time doing this weird tapping thing?
Well, it was weird to me. It's new to me. Yeah. I mean, to me, it's just another vehicle. It's another tool for, creating a happier, more fulfilled life. I've spent. You have a colleague named Mary.
Mary Ayers, who's one of the presenters in the summit.
I've tapped with her. I did 20 sessions with her. I've probably done 50 sessions with you over the last couple of years, and. It's just something that makes you feel better. And if you want to feel better and you want to increase your levels of happiness and possibly remove some of the pain that's in your life, I don't know what more incentive you need than that. I think it's a wonderful opportunity. It's why I'm here and why I agreed to come in and talk about it.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, Wayne. It's
my
such
pleasure.
A pleasure, my
God
friend.
bless you. Love you.
And thank you, everybody. This is Nick Ortner from the TappingSolution.com and the Tapping World Summit with my dear friend Wayne Dyer. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you soon.